These are only thought experiments, opinions, and conjecture. I encourage everyone to do their own research.
Today on Peacemakers of the Roundtable, we're going to be discussing how Adam was not the first man on earth.
Acts 24. The God who made the world and everything in it is the Lord of heaven and earth, and does not live in temples built by human hands. Welcome to the Roundtable, a place where everyone with good intentions is welcome, a place where we each can find our own unique path to God, a place where you will respect everyone or be unseated. We are the Peacemakers. James 1:19. My dear brothers and sisters, take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry.
Let us pray. God, you love questions more than easy answers. Be with us tonight as we sit together, friends and strangers, even people who see the world differently or live in a different world completely. Give us ears that listen, hearts that stay open, and words that build bridges instead of walls. Help us speak truth with kindness and hear truth with humility. May our differences not divide us, but draw us closer to you and to each other. Amen.
And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today, is that I believe that it's been a journey with humans. Like, Adam was not the first human on earth. I believe he was the first human to have a covenant with God. We're going to try to keep it short and simple for now. So I'm only going to talk about Genesis. There's not one, but actually two creation stories. There's a lot of hidden meaning in the language of the Bible. For example, Genesis 1:26 states, "Then God said, let us make mankind in our image, in our likeness, so that they may rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky, over the livestock and all the wild animals, and over all the creatures that move along the ground." God created mankind as a plural unit in that the first creation story, right? Male and female, he created them. No names, no locations, just a generalization. But then immediately in the next chapter, talks about from the dust, right? Genesis 2:7 describes the creation of the first man by God, who formed the man from the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life. And the man became a living being made from the dust, right? So this is like a poke to the evolutionary system of it. So God created this mankind and the fish and the birds and all this stuff when he created like that first creature, like this little thing that, you know, became this and then became that and then became that and then became that. I believe this is saying how God started all this life on earth and could just kind of let it go and was like, sitting there. And it says that in the Bible, you know, he's kind of was sitting there and enjoying what he created. And I believe that the humans evolved up to this creature that we became that had the ability to, you know, communicate and reason.
Something that's always been kind of interesting to me, because there is such a connection with science, and like there's this concrete evidence that we've evolved over time.
Right.
And for some, you know, really strict Christians, they don't believe that.
They're like, oh, it's a retelling, but it's not. It's actually the continuation of the creation, because they are different from each other. If you read, in one version, male and female are created together, and in another one, the lone man is created first by himself. I don't believe that the second is a recap of the first. That doesn't really make sense. I think the Bible actually points to the first humans in general at the beginning, and then the second to the personal story of the single human Adam. And I'm not really the first person to come to this conclusion. Let's discuss how the Bible and more specify Genesis actually hints more to a double creation than a single, which also wields a connection between the scientific timeline of Earth and the biblical timeline. God kind of made this one man, like a craftsman doing his coup de grace. It wasn't until later God took his rib and created a woman. So it wasn't mankind was created, it was a man was created and then a woman was created. That's why mankind was created before that. The statement, form the man from the dust of the ground, it connects the story of evolution to theology, like I was saying. When you think about the way it's stated, made from the dust of earth, I think it's saying something to the tone of scientific evolution of God's creation on earth becoming something more. His original creation became something more. The original Christian text actually back up these claims with Genesis 1:26 saying God created mankind. It wasn't until later in Genesis 2:7 that God created Adam as the first man. He was tasked with fulfilling the covenant with God. So in a sense, the first steward of the faith. The first spiritual assignment given to a human, okay?
So what you're saying is this was the first man to really reach for God and like...
It was like the first man to have an understanding of a higher power and the meaning of good and right.
Yeah.
You know, an evolving creature.
Before we were kind of primitive animals.
Yes, we were just like another monkey, another primate out there.
Exactly.
And one day we were just like, God's like, look at that. I believe he was the first person to understand the idea of right and wrong. Most animals have no idea of right and wrong. I mean, you can teach a dog that, but in the wild, a dog is going to kill you if it's hungry.
It's all instinct based.
Right, right, exactly. And there isn't any animals that have that cognitive ability. In Genesis 2:5, it states that no shrubs or plants of the field had yet appeared because the Lord had not sent rain and there was no man to cultivate the ground. From this verse, most of the time where it says the term working the ground is interpreted literally because of the translation to the King James Version. But if you look into the earlier versions in Hebrew, one of the meanings of the Hebrew word for till is to serve.
Okay.
You know, it's not actually to rototill the ground or, you know, work the ground like that. It's actually to serve. So I believe that to be a euphemism toward the first human beings with a covenant to serve God. So if you want to look even deeper, it states that there was no man to till the ground, not that there was no man alive. You know, it was no man to till the ground.
So this is like the advent of like farming and, you know, living in communities like that.
Well, to a certain point, it's just there was no man to speak the word or be that person with that, you know, the right and wrong, the covenant, the one who goes out and says, hey, we should have laws that you shouldn't kill, you shouldn't steal. So if you're still not following me about all that, there's people in the world at this point. So how is it that do you explain people outside of the garden? Genesis 4:14 says that Cain lamented to God after murdering his brother Abel. He said that because God had driven him from their land, that he will be a fugitive and a wanderer, and anyone who finds him will kill him. Who would be out there if they were like the only family and there's like maybe a handful of people?
I've always wondered that too.
Yeah. God also says in the same breath, anyone who kills Cain will suffer vengeance 7 times, and then puts a mark on Cain so anyone who finds him won't kill him. Weird thing to say and do if there's only been like 4 people mentioned in the Bible at this point. And now one's dead. Abel's dead. You know, and most people in like Christian theology in American, they think Adam, Eve, Cain, Abel.
Right.
So really there was only 4 people when Cain killed Abel, right? So that doesn't make any sense. Also, if Cain is the first murderer, why is everybody else going to kill him like it's nothing?
Right.
See, I don't think Cain was the first murderer. I think he was the first to murder after he knew he wasn't supposed to. Which is that,
very good point.
yeah, that journey of just people, you know, getting to where we are nowadays.
During this enlightenment phase.
Yes, exactly. It also says Cain left the Lord's presence and went to the land of Nod, east of Eden. There's a few things here. First, it says he left God's presence. As we know, God is present everywhere, right? So it's not possible that it's literal. So it's like, that's what the garden was. So it was like this, it was like this place. And after he killed, he had to leave that place to where everybody knew what was right and wrong. He had to go out with all these people that were animals and would kill him. And so I think it's like a metaphor for leaving the fellowship with the Lord. Next, nod means wandering. So it could be interpreted that he was wandering the entire time, or it was literally a land occupied by others away from the Garden of Eden, right? At that point, it would seem he left by himself, right? If anybody in his family was there, if they, say there's 20 people in his family right now, nobody's really going to leave with them. Why would you leave with the murderer? But then suddenly, he's banished by God and he leaves, and then all of a sudden he has a wife, because in Genesis 4:17 it says, Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and bore Enoch, which then he built a city, and he named the city after his son Enoch. Why would Cain build a city for his son and his wife, and that's it?
Yeah, no more people.
No more people. There's only a handful of people on earth? I don't think so. Also, when there's a half dozen people alive and you're the only murderer, who's gonna move to your city? And there's literally this whole world you can move to instead of where I am.
I'm building a city and I'm
come on down to Crazy Cane's condos. Let me fix you up with a fresh mud house and all the amenities. Oh, I promise I won't murder you this time.
It's interesting.
How do you even build a city by yourself anyways?
Yeah, I was kind of thinking that too.
With a wife who just gave birth and a newborn son.
Yeah.
You can't.
And are we talking about a city, like multiple buildings?
That's what a city
resources.
is. Yeah, what's your idea of a city?
At least 10 buildings. Back then I would say.
Yeah.
A place to get water.
It would be
farms.
Yes, a place where you live and a place where people can work and sell things. So you'd have like stores and
the bazaar.
He's sitting in the store by himself, like, I really hope somebody comes and sees me.
It's only 20 people to sell to. But...
Yeah, exactly. And you don't have anything. You're building a city. Well, you're gonna make a farm and do all that too? So now, we were talking about the garden a minute ago. In Genesis 2:8, it says, Now the Lord has planted a garden in the east in Eden, and there he put the man he had formed. At this point, the earth was already created. So God planting a perfect garden in a specific place, which means Eden, wasn't all that there was there or necessarily a magical land in a literal sense. It was the first place of worship, the first church, surrounded by evils of the world, a sacred place cut out from like an evolving land. This is why not much is said about Adam and Eve's children's partners. This is why Cain's wife is Cain's wife and not Adam and Eve's daughter, right?
Yeah, there had to be other people. You can't procreate with your own family.
Right. We all know inbreeding doesn't work in any genetic situation, especially in the animal kingdom. You create these genetic bottlenecks and you will absolutely not be fruitful and multiply. That's for sure.
That's right.
Your IQ drops, all that. This also easily explains Adam's children finding suitable mates the whole time. When Adam started as the first person with that covenant, right? That's why Jesus was called the last Adam, because that was that growth of humans from where we didn't know the difference between right and wrong because we were just these hairless monkeys running around. And we started this, that, and just propagated the world like that. But it finished with Jesus being the perfect Christian, really.